people. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Cholla Needles reading. I am John Branningham. If you are looking for Rich Seuss, who is so much better looking and so much better at this, I'm sorry. He's behind the scenes today. He's watching. He's seeing us. He's running everything. But I'm hosting because I was the guest editor for this edition of Cholla Needles Press, which features so many people from Culturama. And this is not the last edition. We're going to be doing others for Culturama as well, including people who run it, people who participate, people who have taught there. We've got the whole gamut. We've got about 10 readers, and we're going to give everybody maybe 5 minutes about to read. And we're going to end with Anders because Anders is such a dynamic reader. I don't want to have anybody go after him. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of go higgledy-piggledy here and choose. Rooney said earlier that she was nervous about going first. Would you like to go first, Rooney? Okay, let's start with Rooney, who is one of my favorite people. If you could just, as you come on, just introduce who you are and your relationship to Culturama, and read your work.
Hi, I'm Rooney. My relationship to Culturama is I'm John's friend, and I went for the first time, gosh, in 2018 when it was still called Writers Weekend, and just met a lot of amazing people who have become friends and collaborators, and it was an amazing experience, and I'm happy to continue to participate. And I love that now it's every weekend during the semester, so it's great to tackle new topics and get all the prompts and see friends from all over the world. So thank you for keeping the Culturama wheels turning. And thank you to Cholla Needles for giving us this opportunity to highlight people who participate in this experience. I'm just going to read two from number 53. This first is titled Medical Assisting. Most days I like working as a medical assistant in my father's obstetric practice. I was lulled by the routine of weighing pregnant women, making small talk about baby names while I took their blood pressures and noted vitals in neat columns of their medical charts. But some days I had to look away when the Doppler failed to detect a heartbeat. Some days the pregnancy tests were negative, and disappointed looks gave way to glances that defined the word covet. I learned to still my stranger's heart, shut exam room doors discreetly, closing in the sighs. And then this last one is from a prompt by David. Oh, I'm going to get his last name wrong. The one who's in Mankato, who teaches.
Oh, that's Lloyd, our student and friend for many years, Michael Torres.
Michael Torres, thank you. This is based on a Michael Torres prompt from Culturama. And it's going to be one of the cornerstone pieces in my upcoming full-length collection titled To Revere Place, which will cover the first 10 years of my family's life in the US. The things left. You think that you left things behind, forgotten in the coat closet at To Revere Place, tucked in the back behind the winter coats and ice skates, or left behind in the garage, leaning against the wall closest to Mom's orange AMC Hornet, the one with AM radio only. Songs that drifted out of the speakers, songs from the Grease soundtrack, hopelessly devoted to you and you're the one that I want, acting out scenes from the movie, the neighborhood kids taking turns at Danny and Sandy and Rizzo, or those other songs left in the cabinet of the big black console stereo crouching in the basement. Echoes of the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack electric sliding up the stairs and into the kitchen where Dad is blowing up more balloons that he rubs against his curly hair to generate the static that sticks them to the wall. And on Monday morning, there will still be crepe paper streamers left, scotch taped to the wood paneling, still crumpled wrapping paper left on the floor, exposed gifts of Monopoly and Connect Four piled on a folding table, and leftover birthday cake sweating sugar onto a Pyrex dish in the kitchen fridge, the pink roses bleeding into the white frosting, ballerina candles blown out, tilting arabesques next to your icing name, left waiting for you to eat, Like you eat the dogwood trees, pink and red in the front yard of Two Revere Place. Eat the tough-skinned jeans, stiff and impossibly indigo. Eat the purple banana seat bike whizzing down Howard Avenue. Eat the 17-year cicadas and the baseball cards and the last half ounce of mom's bluegrass eau de toilette. You've eaten all these things because we grew up in a home where nothing ever goes to waste. Nothing left on the plate. Thanks, everyone.
All right, up next is Tim Hatch.
Okay. Hi, everyone. What am I supposed to do, John? Introduce myself and my...
Yeah, just how your relationship to Culturama.
Oh, Culturama is my second cousin. And also I've been a student there, and I have taught several, well, I've taught the same workshop several times, and I've taught one or two others as well. Okay, so I'm just going to read two, I guess. First one is, this actually is from a prompt from Anders, who I'm excited to hear read. And this also has the distinction of being the most recent poem that I've written that I don't hate. So hooray for that. This is called Lake Sabrina, 1973. Wandering through a gray day, heavy and wet, there's little light left. I'm away from my parents, but I can still see the sky blue Dodge van, far enough away from my parents that I'm alone in the forest, alone in the world, away from the chaos of home, closets to hide in, my father's countless failed attempts at sobriety, trudging through the woods around the lake. I see a brightly colored fish, a goldfish, a koi, in a tiny creek, little more than a trickle, swimming where? Home to the lake? Away from it? Could he stay in the creek? Can he do that? Can I? An adult, thick with brown hair, leaves and twigs crunching under tan work boots, gathers wood for a fire. Some words are exchanged. Won't you get in trouble for chopping down trees? I only take wood that's already dead. I didn't know wood could die. I didn't know it could live. The man feels safe, responsible. I'm surrounded by trees, too small to hide behind, and I don't know the way home, so I keep walking and eventually find my way back to my father, his hands speckled red with blood and scales of a trout. Its mouth opening and closing, opening, his fingers curl around its guts, closing, he tears them from its body, opening, he calls this cleaning the fish, closing, the smell of Coors and Merit cigarettes, heavy in the air like a low fog, rolling in off the water. And my second poem that I'll read, I was actually talking about this the other night. I didn't realize it was in here. This is called Pequot's a Fruit. And my father and I were having a conversation. Pequot is not a fruit. Pequot is the name of a Native American tribe. I don't know if my father was thinking of kumquats or paraquats. I don't know. And it kind of doesn't matter. Pequot's a fruit, your father grunts, and somehow it no longer matters who John Stone was. All of history is eclipsed by one old man's bullshit, and your legs start to buckle, and you half sit, half fall on the edge of the couch, a couch with deep, fat lines in the fabric, almost corduroy, a beige that says Ross Perot and Crystal Pepsi, that catches you for a moment before you hit the floor, exhausted by the hurricane of vacuous nonsense that wails through the house you grew up in, the house with the perfect memory that won't leave you alone. Its ethereal fingers curl through decades of dust and faded light, flick your earlobe hard like a fifth grade bully, whispers, I'll never forget. You can't ever be someone else. You will always be Ponson. And you keel to the left Your knees come back to your chest. Your cheek reacquaints itself with the synthetic sharpness of the shag rug that smells like Reaganomics and dog hair and 5 decades of not wiping your shoes before you walk inside and you go fetal. You have to give the old man credit. He can still destroy a conversation in a single sentence, like a supervillain whose arch nemesis is rhetoric. His commitment to willful, aggressive ignorance, joyous, fearsome, a thing to supplicate before, and your arms wrap around your legs and squeeze, and you continue to shrink into yourself. You collapse. A dying star, a soft iris explodes, kaleidoscopic. You collapse in on yourself so hard, not even light will escape. You take it all, your house, memory, family, all identity, one singularity, one beautiful heartbeat, oneness stretched infinite across every century, simultaneous, lasts forever, forever into nothingness, until your mother walks in, asks why you're on the floor, and have you eaten dinner yet? And that's me.
Great. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Up next is Andrew Turner.
Thank you. So I never attended Mount SAC as a student, but I have taught at Culturama and Writers Weekend before that. It's coming about 10 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time, and to see just how amazing it's been. Like it's always been so amazing, and just how many people now know it is just fantastic. So I'm super excited to be a part of that and to be a part of this reading. So I'm going to read 2 poems as well. The first one is going to be The Size of Continents. Each rib a fault line miles long, stretching across vast plains, hidden under velvet skin, the pale earth. I am the size of continents. Fingertip metropolises built by surface dwellers dot the skinscape, sprawling brown specks from far away. Primeval forests rise up, reaching toward the heavens, some untouched for centuries, others cut and logged. Ancient scars tell of battles waged, borders crossed, fortifications crumbled by rain, by snow, by stubborn will to live. Other strange marking in Nazca lines, incomprehensible, tell stories to distant eyes. I am the size of continents, mountains of bone, skin earth, ocean eyes, patches of desert still, teeming with life. Thank you. And this, the last one is going to be Joao, which is going to be hopefully in a chapbook that I'm working on called Fictional Romance. It was unlikely to begin with. You living in Brazil after all, and me in the August heat of Los Angeles. Yet here you are, sunlight golden on your beautiful tan skin and your deep coffee eyes, live wires in summer heat. We kiss, you unsure, my tongue tied with your name on my lips. Then you undress me, first the shirt. You do not want me to think you are needy, but my shorts and underwear follow. Socks forgotten in the thick moment. You push me onto my bed, fresh clean from the laundry, kneel. Your eyes glow from afternoon light as you work me to stiffness, your mouth sun. Those eyes beg. I watch your tea fall to the ground, draped as if it knew how to land on the other side of the world. This languid heat pushes me over the edge and you wipe your sated lips with devil tongue, drag me into bed. I expect cigarette smoke or haze of some sort. We melt, the AC too weak, fans no match for Los Angeles, our naked limbs beaded with silent sweat. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andrew. Up next is Kelsey Bryan Zwick.
Hello, thank you. For me, Culturama has been a really amazing friend. It was my first year going, and part of the experience felt like speed dating prompts. You know, everything was just coming so fast and we were just learning a ton. But I realized like all my I started writing some memoir for the first time in a long time. And I realized sort of dealing with the death of my grandmother 2 years ago, my maternal grandmother, one of these pillars in my life that I constantly turned to. And so all these little family stories sort of came through the prompts. So I'm going to start with one little flash memoir and then do a little tiny poem after that. Thanks, Culturama. Danke, bitte. My mother asked me if I wanted her to go with me as she handed me some pocket change and pointed out the corner candy store. No, I replied, all of 4.5 years old now. Just tell me how to say please and thank you. Learning quick translations had become second nature to me, being an American toddler who had migrated with my family to the small town in Spain where we were now leaving. Moving away from Buzol, where I had quickly become a fluent speaker, helping my papa at the grocery store, explaining the difference between this and that. I knew my mom spoke a little German and had grown up singing German songs in school. She had reassured us as we made our way to the port town where we would ship all our things, or the things we had managed to bring to the States, to a strange place called California. Please, she thought, please is bitte. And to say thanks, you say dank. Danke. And I repeated danke and then bitte. She had the road map out, was deciphering names and plotting the easiest route. It had been 3 years since we had first made our way through Europe to Spain, and now we were writing out a long goodbye. I skipped, hopped, and traded my way over to the candy shop. My brothers had gone with Papa to walk back some groceries for the remaining trip. The baby was napping near Mama. I waited for my turn at the counter and then pointed to the candy I wanted. Bitte, I said, and held up 3 fingers. Then pointing to the gummy frogs, bitte, and held up 4 fingers. And then to the berry gummies covered in sprinkles, bitte, and showed 6 fingers. And finally, the chocolate snow caps, bitte, I repeated, and held up 5 fingers. The woman behind the counter dished up my order into a clear plastic bag with twist top tie. Danke, I said finally, danke, and handed her my odd matched coins, which she palmed and counted out, handed me back a coin or 2 with a smile and a danke. And again, I pronounced danke. Outside, I untied my goodies, plopped a gummy frog into my mouth, and chewed it as I walked lazily in the sun back to my mother. Thank you. And this is a little short one. Under Nana's desk. I was safe under Nana's desk, the smell of Murphy's oil soap, the sound of the roll top desk opening and closing, the almost darkness above the soft carpet. I hid there every time for hide and seek, so that my brothers soon ignored me as I traced shapes into the bold 70s styled carpet and found friends in the grains of wood, talking quietly to myself the way that fairies do.
All right, thank you, Kelsey. Up next, we have Scott Creely.
Hey, John, thanks. And thanks to Rich for putting this together. Appreciate all of you. And everybody's reads have been great. You can hear me okay, right? Okay, good. So I have been attending Culturama since I was a student at Mount Sac, since the third Culturama, I think, possibly the second. And I've been teaching workshops at it since 2011, I want to say. So I'm the official spokesmodel / mascot of the whole program as far as I'm concerned. So, deep connections there. One of my favorite places to teach. Just an excellent festival. So today I'm going to read a piece from Needles with called Samaritan. Mostly because I wrote it pre-pandemic, and everything that it discusses has only gotten worse during the pandemic. Samaritan. From across Hillhurst, Charlotte stares into the darkness. The little shadow city that's built up along the sidewalk across Sunset. She can see the silhouettes of transients shuffling back and forth, fading in and out of the street lamp. They seem furtive, as if they're scuffling from spot to spot before she can make out any details. There are a lot of them. Her husband has said that they move back and forth like the bad guys from Mario Brothers, and some people would say it's a shitty thing to say, but Charlotte thinks it's also true. Back and forth, like the little birds in an ornate, old-timey clock. She doesn't have to walk this way, but going a different direction will add like 20 minutes to the trip, and she wants to get home, to sink into her cramped little couch and crack open the absolute edition of Saga that she bought last week. She needs to take her fucking shoes off. The street is a shamble of mattresses, tents, and tarps, a continually growing labyrinth that's existed since she moved here a few years ago. Sometimes the city comes and clears the street. Mostly the street stays lined with tents and that pop up and down like mushrooms on the forest floor, appearing and disappearing without fanfare, but always present. A pile of shoes, a deconstructed radio, lines tying down tarps like teepees, locked boxes stacked like musical instrument cases, a pile of shattered jars, glittering in the half-light, silver blades of light chasing their edges each time a car passes. A man cooking on a camp stove over a burning jar of canned heat, a radio blaring Old Town Road, a woman sweeping off a tarp, the rasp of the broom. Charlotte keeps her head up. She doesn't do it on purpose, but she locks eyes with a man sprawled out in an office chair. He's shirtless, his head is completely shorn. His limbs are incredibly thin. His arms are at his sides, and she can tell by the cant that he can't really move them. His skin is white like dead coral. It glows on healthily in the passing beams. His eyes are huge in the dark. They're swimming with tears. Their dark, slick surface catches the neon sign from the strip club, Cheetahs, and a dehydrated rainbow light flickers across their surface. She doesn't look away, but she wants to. His face twists like he's choking, the hollows in his cheeks collapsing into what must be a mostly toothless mouth. She thinks he might be getting ready to spit on her. Her hands dip into her purse, toward her pepper spray. Don't look away, she tells herself. Keep your face neutral, she thinks. I'm sorry, he says. His face twists again, and she thinks maybe it's a neurological tic. I'm sorry. She stops walking for half a heartbeat, and then her body kicks her into moving again. He hasn't done anything, but she's screaming with adrenaline. It's ripping through her in cold waves of wire-chased near agony. It's okay, she says. You didn't do anything. And she keeps the eye contact as she walks past him. She feels like this is what she was supposed to say. She isn't sure, though. It's true, but it feels hollow, like the sound of her own heels falling on the pavement as she clicks through the last few feet of the homeless encampment. On the couch, she imagines it all differently. She thinks about how light the man must be, how she could have easily lifted him from his chair, could have carried him up the block and into Los Feliz. How eventually, maybe with the help of her neighbor Tom, she could have gotten him up the stairs and into her bathtub, where the water would cut away his old life like a warm blade in the hands of an existential surgeon. That his pain would stream away with the filthy water, and he'd flex his hands, hugging his own shoulders in amazement. And she'd apologize. I'm sorry, she'd say. She could do it. She just needs to stand up, take her keys from the glass coffee table, and step back into the night. And then, still imagining how she'll walk back to her car, the rescue of that man, she falls asleep on the couch. She doesn't even take off her shoes before she's out. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Up next is Lloyd Aguilar.
Hi, everybody. My association with Culturama goes all the way back to when it was first created. Basically, when I got hired full-time at Mount Sac, John, one of the first things that we ever talked about was Writers Weekend, which then became Weekend of the Arts for a little bit, and then eventually has become Culturama. So I've been with it since, what, 2008, 2007, whenever we first started. I've taught some sessions, but mostly I'm behind the scenes with John, making sure everything runs smoothly, even as this transition to online. So I'm very proud of the part that I play in it, and very grateful to play a part in it. I'm going to read two poems from this issue. The first one is about my grandfather, and it's titled Tatay, which is basically a term of affection, a Filipino term of affection for grandfather. It's like the equivalent of Papa. So this is a poem that's actually going to be part of a book-length poem that I'm working on about my Filipino heritage. So can everyone hear me okay, by the way? Yeah, okay. So Tatay. Sometimes the body ignores the mind to survive long enough to father children, remarry, father more children, carry the youngest of them across the Pacific Ocean on wings built out of obeying orders, long enough to survive. Sometimes obedience is a porous membrane, filtering salt water to sustain itself long enough to swim back to the surface. Sometimes we sting ourselves to keep ourselves alive. Mom told me during the war, you kept the books for a rice plantation, a dutiful employee of a Japanese superior who protected you from harm, but profited from your labor, your mind for mathematics. When I would answer your questions on the way to your doctor's appointments, I had to remind myself to say, Opo, to honor you as my elder. Sometimes sometimes the mind must remind the body of its duty. The question and answer followed by long silences down freeways, down city streets. Both of us, men of few words. I wish I had thought of more to say before you died. September 2015. I panicked all the way down the 10 freeway, all the way down winding city streets, all the way back home to the silence of a bedroom with blackout curtains. I panicked at the thought of losing my job, questions crashing into each other in my mind, my body doing what it needed to survive, to just stay still, even with my hands on the steering wheel, my foot on the gas pedal, eyes on the road. I panicked, and that was nearly the end of me. I curled into a ball of oblivion, receded into the darkness of a bedroom, drowned myself to sleep beneath calm blue blankets, and hoped to never wake again, to never face my panic. I wish I had asked you, Tatay, how do you face your worst fear? Mom told me about a train ride when she was little, a widower asking his youngest daughter about the woman he had noticed, asking if that woman would make a good mother, and asking if you ought to marry her. And she said yes, and you did, fathered 3 more children, who gave you 10 more grandchildren, all of us who wept for you in a cathedral in Covina. I had a child once in a dream, a little girl I held in my arms once before she vanished in the sunlight. Sometimes I glimpse her playing in my backyard before the sun gets in my eyes. I have no children of my own, and that is one reason I panicked. That is my version of dying alone. October 2019, I push my nephew Mason's stroller down Halloween decorated streets, hold my nephew Jordan's hand while he learns to say trick or treat. And in the moonlight, I am not alone. My mind tells my body to remember this. This is why sometimes surviving is enough. Thank you. The second poem is a poem about my dog Charlie, who right before New Year's of this past year needed surgery on his ear for a hematoma, which is really scary, but he's okay. Except his ears used to perk up And now one ear kind of flops down like this and doesn't stand up anymore. This is a poem just kind of capturing a moment after a couple days after the surgery. It's called New Year's Day 2021. Today, Charlie walks like an astronaut, studying the planetary surface. Patches of winter grass, scatters of stone. There's blood on his helmet's visor, a streak of red across his cheek, drawing over an old scar from his escape artist days. But his one good ear stands at attention, and the other, with its stitches, flickers in the solar winds. His tail whips behind him as he sniffs flying creatures that make landfall to peck holes in the earth. Bluest of skies, a yellow gas giant shines on every square inch of his thick winter coat. He'll explore for another few minutes, then some wet food, antibiotics, pain medication. He'll dream he's in deep space, his full belly rising and falling like footsteps across an unexplored planet. Thank you.
Okay, up next is Thomas Thomas.
Okay, let's see. I attended Mount SAC almost 50 years ago and never graduated. So life changed. And I got my first book published through attending my first Culturama. I forget what year that was, maybe 10 years ago. So here it is. And I'm going to try a multimedia sort of presentation, since my poems are based on Edward Hopper paintings. Oops. Come on, what are we doing? Okay, can you see that? Night windows, 1928. Open window, breeze blows from within. She drops her shoe in the well-lit room. "7 a.m., 1948. Stacking the bottles, he collapsed on the floor, greeting the morning sun. Sun in an empty room, 1963. Triangle of darkness where she used to hide her sorrow. And the last one. Rooms by the Sea, 1951. He stares out the window. The undulating sea is calling. He is sailing tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Oh, that's great. Up next, we have Daniel Crines.
Thank you, John. And I wish we could have seen those paintings. I looked them up when I was reading your poems before. That really, they were great. Those, what do they call them? Stochastics, not stochastics, but. Was that me? I can't hear you, John. You're muted.
Yeah, there's some child on here who's trying
Okay.
to do something. Let's see. Let me try to figure out who that was.
At least we didn't get rickrolled.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Who is sharing the screen there? Did anybody see?
The name is Jennifer.
Okay. Was it Jennifer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to kick her out. Okay.
Okay, I'll start over.
Yeah, thanks.
So I'm involved with Culturama because all my life I wanted to write, and it wasn't until I was in my 60s that I went back to Mount SAC, and John and other English teachers who taught writing really got me excited about it, and I've been writing ever since. The poems I'm going to read tonight are remnants of when I didn't believe myself to be a writer. I'd find them in my pockets when I would be doing my laundry. And so they're really important to me. Some of them actually kept me from drowning actually in my life. I'm going to read 3. One is called Now What? If you were to live one moment fully, death would be of no concern. There are more lifetimes in one lucid instant than in years of fitful dreams, more intimate tenderness in one glimpse of your soul in the eyes of another than a million orgasms drawn from the depths of our desperate hungers. More completion in one fully held sorrow than an ocean of tears drawn from the bottomless well of our broken heart. More nourishment in one taste of God's lips, more life force in one swift gasp of recognition than 1,000 banquets. This is not a game. It is a love affair with death, a wild search for significance in a dream world which avoids the only answer, the one that arrives only when we relinquish all holds, all investments, all fantasies that life has substance, and realize that the dramas and ecstasies we hold so dearly through hidden fears are no more, no less than wisps of nothingness. Sooner or later, we all must pass through the last ever open door, into the light that emanates from the deepest expanse of who we have always been. And this one is called Aware of Awareness. Tinged in ochre, I rest as this sunrise to invent this day and create myself in every moment fresh, alive, awake, inspired, aware of awareness, drunk on the nectar which flows life through this dream of years. As blood feeds this body, as air feeds this blood, as love feeds this thirsty soul, I wrap myself in the sun's embrace and relinquish my sight to her fire, where only heaven's gold collides with wants, to drape me, frail and naked, in raiment soft, in raiment warm, so regal, crimson, deep and wide. Yes, I rest as the sun's noble gaze unfolds this life before me, beholds the verdant pastures beneath all of my desires. And the last one's a little short one that has always buoyed me when I would be in the depths of my self-made darknesses, and it's just like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. It's called No Other. Brave, beautiful soul, know you are divine. The mountains shall move of their own in reverence of your presence. The deep, dark caverns of fears are filled with light brighter than day, the instant you venture through the gate. You are a beacon that shows the sun a mere candle flame. Laugh out loud, for you know you can't resist. Fill this serious void with your mirth. The echoes will sound as lullabies and embrace your precious heart. There is no other. Soar completely naked in the sunlight of yourself. Revel in the masterpiece of your life displayed on these scary cavern walls. No artisan has ever dreamed of art like this. And I'm so sorry I missed all the Culturama this last year just because I'm a professional isolator and I don't do Facebook, and I completely was clueless. But
we'll make sure that Lloyd has your email, and then you'll get all the announcements.
Thanks.
So, yeah, Lloyd being my co-conspirator, and as you said, does all the stuff behind the scenes. You always see my face, but Lloyd is always there.
I like to lurk in the shadows.
Okay, up next is Kitty Anarchy.
Okay, hello. Okay, my poems are a little different. The truth is sometimes raw, and so trigger warning. The truth is sometimes can make people uncomfortable. So just get ready. Okay. So one's about us, and one's about stuff that's going on right now that I really feel I need to say because of what's going on. So I'll just start with the one that's in here. The American dream is all that it seems for those born the right color, gender, and breed. Step on the weak, break their backs. If someone criticizes you, just attack back. But time's running out on the American scheme. People now know the cold reality. The system was built for them, not for me, not for you, not for her, not for any brown skin. Not for anyone who deviates from manifest destiny, making them slaves, making them servants, shaming them hastily. Not for being born the right kind, right place, or right time. The Bible says, I have the right to make you rightfully mine. Punish for not following God's godly orders. Punish for daring to run across man-made borders. Original sin brought about the color of your skin, but with prayer, you might even be forgiven. Pray to one God, the white God that they brought. Forget the ones that your ancestors taught. The ones that protected you, looked like you, and came in your dreams. Now gone away, for you all lived in sin. Now you pray to white God, now you love by our rules. To defy us to sin, our minority rules. But that's all in the past. We don't think about that. Be proud that in wars, we are never dead last. We're still in your heads, Big Brother is here. Best to just follow orders. Shut up and steer clear. Never mind Freddie Gray and Eric Gardner can't breathe. We've now crossed paths and now you can't leave. Zimmerman found not guilty for holding his ground. Trayvon Martin should have known to just bow himself down. George Floyd, rest in peace. Oops, they did it again. Promises, promises, but this shit never ends. Countless pigs, countless cops, but there's too many to count. Killing unarmed young Blacks in excessive amounts. Back on the beat with no punishment, with no harm meant. What about the bullet spent? He reached for his gun and I really felt threatened. These are the things that keep them protected. Stay out of the way, out of sight, out of mind. Clear the way for the sake of all of their kind. They'll kill us and beat us, keep us locked up for life. They'll try to get rid of us, try as they might. They make silly laws so you'll break them in time. Need to keep things this way so don't you dare fall out of line. Prison system, they're modern day slaves, keep us in prison countless nights, countless days. States making profits from prison industries cut labor costs more than sweatshop workers overseas. Yet they want you to think that others are the enemy when they're just trying to make it, just like you, just like me. It's not them, it's not us, it's the system, don't you see? Wake up, time has come to face reality. Vanessa even tried to be one of them. She was brown and a woman, her country proud to defend. Military culture permissive of sexual harassment and assault. She went missing the day she planned to file the complaint. They found her, but they found her in pieces. He shot her dead, so who's left to blame? I didn't see the protest for her like I did for the others. Isn't she our sister like George is our brother? Next one's called Gaza Strip Bombing. Killing fellow people, making way, making space. Fictitious, sacrilegious, grandiose fantasy land. Want us to feel bad like it's our fault because of what was lost at the Holocaust. Can't heal from the pain, from the past, lost lives. By murdering Palestine, again the innocent die. Don't you dare say anti-Semite because we speak for what is right. Fuck Israel, free Palestine. Thank you.
All right. Up next, we have Kendall Johnson.
So my connection with Mount Sac runs deep. I used to teach there long ago, and then I've taken classes there. And my father used to teach there. We'll come back to him in a moment. But I've got two pieces out of a book that's coming out next month called Box Poetics. The first piece is On Wall Street. Phyllis Bronson had dreamed of a day like today. A school psychologist, she'd grown tired of the incessant testing, report writing, and meetings. And that's why she joined the school crisis team. Yet it wasn't enough. It didn't seem to scratch the itch. She'd used skills, all right. They were always needed in suicide interventions, parent deaths, conflicts, and all the normal ills that beset schools. But Phil, as she liked to be called, longed for the big one, the air crash, the riot, community disaster. In her team training, the class had culminated with a large incident simulation where all of the micro skills and tactics had been orchestrated strategically, completed with complications and time press. She'd been in heaven and ever since had dreamed of an incident of that magnitude. On the morning of 9/11, it suddenly looked like her wish had come true. Phil had stopped in early at the district office in Brooklyn to pick up some reports when word came down that a passenger plane had flown into the first tower in the World Trade Center. She stopped into the office of the director of student services, who was the head of the crisis team, and was told to help call the other team members. While all of the team planning had members working in groups of 3 to 6, only 20 members had made it to their schools before traffic had become gridlocked. One could be spared for each of the closest schools. She relayed instructions from her team leader to the others. Stay with your school, work in teams of one, do what you can with whatever situation you find. Her school, a specialty high school, and the finance district stood within a block of the trade center. She drove in as close as she could get, then left her car and walked across Wall Street into the smoke and concrete dust. The second piece, if I can find it, it's called Case Report, Parkinson's Disease. Male, veteran of World War II, diagnosed at 69 years of age with Parkinson's disease, a progressive neurological debilitation. The patient died 7 years later at 76, being bedridden during the last 3 years. His struggle with Parkinson's was complicated by severe arthritis, hypoglycemia, and the long-term results of alcoholism. During the last years of his life, his tremors were severe and would exacerbate the arthritic pain such that by 10 a.m. most mornings, medication could not control the pain without compromising his consciousness. A philosophy professor by trade, a cultured and nuanced man, a patient maintained full cognitive and sensory awareness of his circumstances up until his last month or two, choosing not to be fully sedated because he didn't want to miss whatever life he had left. Surprised at having survived the Battle of the Bulge in 1945, the man was not interested in surrendering any more of his remaining life than necessary. He and his wife lived the past several years together in a graduated care facility. She would spend every evening with him. Following her death, 10 years later, her personal journal was discovered in her writing desk. One entry was written 2 months before her husband's death and at the conclusion of their evening visit. At this point, he was in extreme pain and could barely articulate well enough for anyone to understand except her. Her entry read, "He leaned up to me and was finally able to say, 'Thank you.' It has been worth it. All of it. Thank you.
And our final reader today comes all the way from Ontario, Canada, and it's T. Anders Carson.
Hello from up in Canada. Yay! I want to say that for me, Culturama has been, it breathes life and it breeds life. And it's saved me over many, many years that I've had a chance to come and go from Ontario, where I'm from, to Ontario in Southern California, even though it always confuses when I go through, you're going from Ontario to Ontario. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I wanted to say that I'm honored to be here today, and I'd like to share a couple of poems. On my island, there will be poetry that I can read on the beach, ones that have racy lines and zingers for accuracy. There'll be smoked salmon, but it must be eaten quickly, and then a bowl of Captain Crunch. There will be small breezes and drinks with little umbrellas, some LA jazz station you can reach with Sirius, and beside you, that one-eared cat. You couldn't leave her behind. So she has a little saucer of cream every morning and, like an aging rock star, pukes before noon. Don't forget the kite. It can be used to signal people in need, as it has a long flashy tail and colors that say yes. Lastly, my buckwheat pillow. Yes, buckwheat. It kicked my snoring habit so as to appease the cat and my wife. I rest my head on its coolness. And then the last poem that I'd like to share with you today is called Pirate Story. I remember my father reading to me. He had whiskers, always whiskers in the evening. It was about a group of pirates who would row to a tiny island. They were going to bury that treasure, and I could see them on that dark night and hear the oars dipping into the water, moving the treasure chest up the beach, and then the digging commenced, always digging and hiding. I was intrigued by where they had gotten the treasure. Who did they take it from? And often just asking, why? My father reading that story over and over. Oh, to hear it again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anders, and thank you to all of the readers. I really appreciate and love your work. And I want to say a big thank you to Rich Seuss and to Cholla Needles, who made this possible. I'm really grateful for it. This is a fantastic magazine. Every month you get something. I encourage everybody to subscribe to it. It's fantastic. It's one of the gems. People don't think of the area east of Los Angeles as being cultured, but it is. And a big part of that reason is Rich Seuss is out here. So thank you so much, Rich. And thank you all for coming.
Good to see you all. Take it easy.